Right. Hello and welcome, FPL managers, and welcome to the Zonal Weakness brought to you by Corner Football Fantasy, powered by Fantasy Football Scout. And of course, we are back for the Zonal Weakness for Game Week 16. And of course, it's glad to be back, to be honest. After at least I don't know about you others, but I feel a little bit better having had a very good game week last week. With two Manchester United assets, Bruno Fernandes and of course Mboma. So that kind of made my day. So I'm feeling a little bit better and perhaps a little bit more confident, but I shouldn't be. But anyway, good to see you all. And yeah, let's get started. And of course, this is the Zonal Weakness for Game Week 16. And if you haven't followed, liked, or subscribed to our channels, please do so now because we are producing regular content every week. And yeah, and all the data that you see are taken from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The Black Friday offer is still on, 45% discount. And yeah, the game mix are coming thick and fast. So if you are planning to dominate FPL and of course do some, take some decisions given that five free transfers are there, every decision that you take will be evidence based and, well informed. And I think that's where Fantasy Football Scout can play a very pivotal role, I would say. So, yeah, hurry up with the 45% discount. It's worth the investment. Right, let's go straight into the zonal weakness. And of course, the first up is the top of the table versus the bottom of the table. And of course, we have Wolves versus Arsenal facing. And as you can see, we know Wolves is the weakest team currently. My screen has been frozen a little bit, but yeah, sorry, that's the internet issue. But yeah, just to restart again. It's the top of the table versus the bottom of the table with Wolves and Arsenal facing. And as you can see clearly, it's Wolves. It's more or less looking green with Eze, Gaikores, Saka, and Timber looking very good option given the fact that Wolves have actually considered 29 chances and 30 chances down the center and left flank respectively. So Eze could be a very good punt and of course a very good captain shout, a punt captain shout. But Saka seems to be the most favorite captain shout, of course. So yeah, I would go for Saka and Eze would be my two picks. But I wouldn't leave out Rice either because Wolves, are not really showing very great performance either from the right flank. So yeah, this is the match that one should be focusing. Moving on to the next fixture, which is, of course, Brentford versus Leeds. And as you can see, Leeds seems to be very leaky, particularly they are the worst team in terms of the XGC, ranked 20th. And you can see that, Leeds are basically weak from all the three zones, having conceded 20 chances, 21 chances, and 23 chances from the left, from the right center, and of course from the left flank. And this is where Jensen is going to play. Thiago is a very good option given the fact that he is still doing very well. Dango is a good option, but the problem is he'll be leaving for AFCON very soon, so I wouldn't waste a transfer on that. But if there's one player that I would like to pick from here, it would be Thiago, of course. And if you have Thiago, then we can talk about other assets as well. But this is a fixture that is likely to produce a lot of goals, so keep an eye on this fixtures too. The next fixture, of course, it's Sunderland versus Newcastle, and I think this is going to be a very tight match. And given the form that Sunderland has shown recently, and they're very tough when it comes to defensively solid when it comes to playing at home. So while here there's a bit of green with Walter Mudd and Wisa and of course Barnes and Gordon playing in that zone, I wouldn't really count too much on it, but I'm not going to say that, there's not going to be any goals. But I think the goals are going to be coming, are not going to come thick and fast in this match. It's going to be pretty tight and pretty congested. So, yeah, again, if there's something that I would like to focus, perhaps Burns and Gordon would be my two players that I would really focus on, given the fact that Sunderland have considered actually 35 chances down the right flank and are ranked worst. Well, now to Bournemouth versus Manchester United. Now, Mboma is colored here, but Mboma is not leaving, so we expect him likely to play again in Game Week 16, given the FIFA rule, that a player needs to register at least 7 days before the match. So I think Mboma still has time. So I'm expecting at least for Mboma to play this particular match and then leave for the AFCON. But Bruno Fernandes, of course, is not colored, but it's slightly missing out of our coloring code because we only color the top five. But Bruno Fernandes is still a very good option, creating a lot of chances and, of course, producing a lot of DEFCONs as well. So I think it's a player that is not going to disappoint. So I think given the free five transfers that we have currently, I think this would be a good option to, if you don't have Bruno Fernandes, it's the right time to bring him in because Bournemouth has actually considered 19 chances and are ranked sixth. And Bruno is kind of all over the pitch, playing everywhere. So, yeah, I think this is a good option. Cunha looked very sharp in the previous match, and of course, Mount looked sharp as well. But at least Bournemouth's right flank seems to be a little bit more solid compared to the other flanks. This is where they have only considered 11 chances and are ranked 18. But there's going to be a little bit of positioning reshuffling that's probably coming up after the players leave for AFCON. I think only Masraoui is left so far, but others are going to be here. But once they go, I think Game Week 17 provides a bit of an opportunity to bring Cunha and Mount or others who are probably going to be playing well. Next up, it's of course Nottingham Forest versus Tottenham, and now Tottenham looks to be performing pretty interesting. And I think one player really, although not marked in the zone here, in the zonal color coding that we provide, Xavi Simon has really caught my attention, and I think he's looking very sharp, playing very well. I think this is the Xavi Simons we were expecting, but the zonal really doesn't scream buy right now because down the center, Nottingham Forest seems to have considered only 15 chances and are ranked ninth. But Muani and, of course, Johnson are the ones that is colored here because here what we see is Nottingham Forest have actually considered 24 chances and are ranked second. And I think that also applies for the left flank where they have considered 25 chances and are ranked fifth, where Kudus and Puro is likely to play. But again, keep an eye on Tottenham's recent performances, and including these performances, Romero could be again another surprise package with scoring. You never know; he could score another one with Nottingham Forest conceding at least 15 headed considered chances. So that's something that you need to take into account. So set pieces are going to be pretty interesting. So keep an eye on that. Next up, it's of course West Ham versus Aston Villa, and I think you can see that the entire row is kind of green. And I think that one player that really stands out for me right now is, of course, Watkins, who seems to have found a little bit of form. And this is where West Ham seems to be pretty leaky, 21 chances and are ranked fourth. But also on the right flank, they have considered 24 chances and are ranked second, where Rogers is likely to occupy. But Cash, having scored a goal in the previous match, this is where could be another match for Cash where he could again capitalize, given the fact that West Ham have actually considered 23 chances and are ranked third. So yeah, if you're looking to bring in a defender from West Ham, Cash could be a very good option. Aston Villa versus again West Ham, and I think this is where Callum Wilson and Paqueta stands out a little bit, given the fact that Aston Villa seems to be weak on the center zone, conceding 23 chances and are ranked second. But in terms of the crosses, I think again the right flank seems to be a bit more vulnerable for Aston Villa. Somerville seems to have missed quite a number of opportunities that day. Again, Manchester United, so I'm expecting more crosses coming from here, from Diouf and Somerville. So this could be a good opportunity. Everton versus Chelsea, I think this is going to be a pretty tight match, and I don't think so it's going to be a very open game. So I'm not really expecting too many goals here, and I think the zonal is just kind of, outside the color coding, but inside the top 10. And you can clearly see that, Garnacho looks to be a good option, given that Everton have actually considered 18 and are ranked 8th. Whereas Yao Pedro and, of course, Palmer, I don't know if he's back, but yeah, that's where they have considered 19 chances down the center and are ranked 6th. Now, left flank also seems to be a little bit weak for Everton, where they have considered 19 chances and are ranked 7th. So Neto could also do well along with Estevao. So, but again, this is not a game that is screaming a lot of goals here, so I would rather skip this one. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next slide, and I'm not going to really touch upon all the fixtures. You can see it, and you can pause the screen and have a look. But I'm just going to quickly touch upon the green here. And the first fixture that really brings to my attention is, of course, Burnley versus um, Fulham. And yeah, in terms of the headed conceded, I think this is where Jimenez could do well, given the fact that Burnley have actually considered 15 headed chances and are ranked fourth. But in terms of the crosses, again, right flank seems to be weak for Burnley, with 62 crosses considered and are ranked fourth. So Smith Rowe again could be in the score sheet here. Brighton versus Liverpool. Well, Liverpool, of course, Ekitike scored 2 goals in the previous match, but then ended up conceding 3 and drawing the match against Leeds. So this is where again Ekitike could again do well, having Brighton conceding 20 chances down the right flank and are ranked fourth. Um, Moving on to the next one, which is again Manchester United versus Bournemouth, and you can see that Bournemouth um, not really looking great, to be honest, except the fact that Ivan Lisson might be able to um, score some from the set pieces, perhaps, because Manchester United seems to be showing that vulnerability in the aerial balls, and I think this is where 15 headed considered chances and are ranked fourth. So I think this is another opportunity for Evan Lisson to perhaps score a goal, or at least for Bournemouth to actually put in some corners and then scoring some goals through head. 72 crosses we have seen from the left flank being considered by Manchester United, and they're ranked third. So again, Tavernier and Jimenez, Jimenez, yes, Jimenez could actually do well. Sorry for the spelling error, but yeah, that's that. Well, I don't think so. This is it. But I think what you would probably be noticing is that there's no City we have mentioned in the first table, but in the second table you can clearly see City's playing Crystal Palace, and I think Crystal Palace defensive numbers are pretty solid. Not saying that this is going to be a very tight affairs, but I don't think so. It's a match that screams a lot of goal, and I wouldn't be underestimating Crystal Palace defenses either. So that's why I'm not really going to shout. So Haaland and Foden, of course, might not be able to capitalize, or may in City, but so you could expect them to score goals. But at least the data suggests that Crystal Palace looks solid from the center, conceding 10 chances and ranked 19th. So yeah, that's that. Okay, moving on to the zonal team of the week, and rightly so, Thiago and Watkins makes it. As you can see, um, I think Leeds and both uh, Watkins, they have shown a good performance so far. Thiago and Watkins, and I think this is where um, they have rightly picked themselves into this team. The midfield is a little bit crowded, and I'm not really surprised to see two Arsenal's assets making into the team. Saka and Eze having playing against Wolves, and of course they're ranked worst. So that's that. Excuse me. um, Django, of course, as I said, again wants a place in this team, but the only problem is Django is leaving next week, so for the AFCON, so I wouldn't really get him. I think Gordon and Rogers again, very rightly so, are part of this zonal team, and we have seen that already. Louis Hall, Timber, and Cash, and I think this is quite clear why Timber is there and why Cash is there. But Louis Hall, I think, is an interesting shout, although they're playing against Sunderland. But this is a particular zone where Sunderland looked a little bit vulnerable, at least the zonal data suggests so. So yeah, so while Sunderland might be very strong, eye test wise, but this particular zone seems to be a bit weak. And of course, we have gone for Sanchez as the goalkeeper for this particular match, given that the match seems pretty tight and it's going to be pretty close one, congested with low scoring. Yeah. Moving on to the goal conceded zonal wise, and rightly so, Wolves being the worst team, clearly conceding 67% of the goals, 22 goals have been considered down the center. Out of the 33 goals that they have considered. So that's pretty high number. Burnley, on the other hand, have actually considered 53 chances And out of the 30 goals that they have considered so far, 16 goals have gone through the center, of course. Leeds, on the other hand, is pretty interesting, and I just want to draw your attention is it's not just the 52%, like, out of the 29 goals, there are 15 goals that have gone through the center. If you closely look at the right flank and the left flank in the overall row, what you would see is the left flank where 38% of the goals have been considered by Leeds, and 10% only on the right flank. Now, 38% is exactly the flank where Dango is likely to play. So if you're really bullish and you are pretty much interested in getting Dango for 1 week punt, I think this particular chart kind of gives you a bit of an idea about why Dango could really do well in this game because 38% of the chances have gone in. But again, if you have Thiago, that's the 52% chances down the center for Leeds, and of course Leeds are the worst in terms of the XGC. So it's pretty obvious why Dango and Thiago have made it to the zonal team, but they are the two players that you would seriously consider. West Ham, again, 69%, conceding 20 goals out of the 29 through the center. And of course, their right side and their left side flags are pretty well balanced in terms of the goals conceded. Nottingham Forest is ranked fifth, worst. And this is where they have considered 60% of the goals down the center, with 15 goals considered out of 25. Right flank and the left flank seems to be pretty equally balanced, with 20% each having considered 5 goals. Right, moving on to the last, or the top 5, I would rather call it, and you can see it from the top. Of course, Manchester City has moved into the 16th position, so that's basically the top 5. And overall, they have considered only 16 goals, 10 goals have gone through the center. This is pretty interesting. Chelsea, again, this is a number why I was calling the Chelsea game to be a low-scoring game, is because of the number of goals that Chelsea have actually considered only 15. So it's pretty interesting. Aston Villa has made a significant recovery, and they were outside the top 5 in terms of goal considered, but have now made it well, and our top 3 teams in terms of goal considered. That's why they're ranked 18th here, and you can see they have only considered 10 goals out of the 15 goals down the center, and the rest of the goals have come in from that. Crystal Palace is facing Manchester City, and I think rightly so. This is why you probably have been wondering why Haaland was not in our first slide, is because Crystal Palace numbers are solid, and they're second in terms of the defensive numbers, or at least in terms of the goal considered chart, only conceding 12 goals so far. 8 of them have gone through the center with a 67% through it. So that's pretty impressive number and defensive number. And of course, Arsenal being the top defense, and of course, they have just conceded 9 goals, and 6 goals have gone through the center so far. So yeah, that's that. So I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't liked the video, please do so. If you haven't shared with your friends, please do so. I think the Zonal is kind of showing very good numbers in terms of the performance and in terms of the correctness. And this is a style that you could particularly follow in trying to play the FPL. So yeah, with that, I wish you all the best with the 5 transfers. There's a lot of injuries coming in, but yeah, until then, I'll see you next week for Game Week 17. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.